For installation. In this video, we're going to be looking at issues surrounding installation of Linux operating system. So we'll also look at prerequisites to installing Linux operating system, and by the time we're done with this video, you should be able to choose what makes sense for your installation. Before you install an operating system, there are a couple of questions you need to ask yourself. You first need to ask what the purpose of your computer is going to be. Would you want it to be a workstation and probably coexist it with other computers in your office on your network, or would you want it to act as a server running services such as email services, internet services, etc. So that is very important for you to note first, for you to be able to determine if your computer is going to run as a workstation or if you need it to act as a server. Once you're done choosing that, then you need to ask which operating system you want to install. The way I've listed that here is Linux, starting with Linux versus other operating system. So now I know when you see other operating system, the first thing that comes to mind is Microsoft operating system. Well, it is important to know that Microsoft and Linux operating system are not in the same class. They're not in the same class of operating system, as Microsoft operating system dominates in home and office computing, while Linux on the other hand dominates in scientific computing, and servers also are known to run Linux operating system more often. I have down here to Linux versus a Unix operating system. So you might be wondering, you might need to ask yourself that, do you want to either install Linux or do you want to install Unix operating system? So Unix operating system is a commercial operating system, so it is not a free operating system. An example of this operating system types are Solaris. Solaris is from Sun Microsystem. We also have Iris. Iris is from Silicon Graphics. So it is interesting to note that Linux is out there for about practically free, and people still choose to buy this commercial Unix operating system. Well, maybe that is because the Unix operating system happens to work better in some situations, in some circumstances, so they happen to work better than Linux operating system. But notwithstanding, it is still going to be very interesting to see how this plays out in a couple of years, because Linux every day keeps stepping on the commercial Unixes and Microsoft tools every day. So it will be very interesting to see how the Linux versus Microsoft thing is going, how the Linux versus Unix thing plays out in about say 10 to 15 years. Once you are done choosing your operating system, and assuming you've decided now to install Linux operating system on your computer, next you need to be able to determine which distribution of Linux operating system do you want to run on your computer. So even though we've gone through this distribution in our earlier video, so I'll just take a quick tour through it once again. So what I've listed here are four distribution. There are other distribution of Linuxes too that you can select from, so I've only listed these four because they have some notable characteristics. There are other distributions that you can select, other distributions such as Nopix Linux, Mandrake Linux, Yellow Dog Linux, Ubuntu Linux, etc. Like I mentioned once again, I've only listed those four just because they have some very peculiar characteristics. So with Red Hat is about the most popular distribution of Linux operating system. So it has a lot of support and it comes with a lot of graphical users interface tools. We also have Debian. Debian is known to be a very stable Linux distribution. It is very stable, so it hardly crash once you have Linux running on your machine, on your box. So it's going to be very stable, because that is what is known for over the years. Then we also have SUSE, or SUSE as most usually will call it. So SUSE most of the time comes on DVD. Okay, so coming on DVD, it also comes with a lot of softwares that you can choose to install. So if you're looking at installing various software on your Linux box, then you can consider purchasing or going for the SUSE Linux distribution. And finally, down here I have Slackware. Slackware is about the most purest form of Linux distribution that we have out there. Slackware does not have a graphical user's interface. So once you're running Slackware on your on your computer, then you are restricted to working within the shell interface. So and you don't get to see the fascinating GUI interface like you do see in other Linux distribution. Now let's talk about licensing a little bit. We have licenses in Linux, licenses such as the General Public License, the Mozilla Public License, the Library General Public License, etc. So there are different licenses that can govern the software that you use in Linux operating system. We have at the top here open source software. So if you recall in our earlier video, we did mention that open source software are free software. So there are free softwares available for you on the internet to download free of charge without having to pay a dime for. Okay, and for the open source software, it uses this set of license, the general public license. So open source softwares are produced under the license of the general public license, and the general public license rule states free redistribution, okay, source code availability, as compared to commercial softwares. The Mozilla license is licensed for the Mozilla Firefox browser alone. So this license governs the Mozilla Firefox browser. Mozilla Firefox as a browser is a free browser, so it is available free of charge for you to download over the internet. Then we also have commercial license. Commercial license are known to be for commercial softwares such as Microsoft softwares. So when you purchase Microsoft softwares, so they are not for free, obviously, so you need to buy them, you need to pay to get a copy of your Microsoft softwares. Open source software rules. Open source software rules is being defined by the Free Software Foundation, the FSF. Okay, so the one that handles the definition of the open source software rule. And one of the rule, or some of the rules of the open source software, states that software should be made freely available. Okay, so it should be available free of charge. You don't need to pay for software. It also preaches free redistribution. So I can download the software, so I'm very, very free to distribute it, to give it out to others, to make duplicates, more copies of that software. Source code are also freely available, so you can download the source code of any of your Linux distribution, for example, for about free of charge, and you can make modifications to them too as well. Then here I have modification can be released under other licenses. Well, this might look a little bit confusing. What we mean here is that you can download the source code of one of your favorite open source software, make modifications to it, and also releases it under other times of a license, and that software might not be free anymore. So you see, this might look a little bit confusing. So if you really want to learn more on that, then you can consult a lawyer, okay, to explain more on that, as that mostly affects developers. So for the commercial softwares are known to be closed source. Okay, so the source code of commercial softwares are not made available, so they are closed source. Then they have a distribution limitation. Example, when you get your Microsoft Office, so you're not meant to redistribute it. You're not meant to make copies of it and giving it to people, as that you'll be violating Microsoft rule by doing that. There's also this issue of payment with commercial software. So if you want to get commercial software, then you need to pay for it. You need to pay to get your commercial softwares. Now let's wrap things up in this video by taking a look at some softwares that you can run within Linux. Softwares that we can run within Linux operating system. It is important to know that in Linux you have a lot of choices to choose from in terms of running softwares. Okay, softwares on a standalone system or even on a server system. So most of the time you have more choices than you would have on Microsoft machine. So you will notice that a little bit of challenges might arise if you're choosing to run, or if you have some machines running Microsoft product, Microsoft operating system on your network, and you have some other machines running Linux operating system on your network. As sometimes when you have to share files, if somebody using the Microsoft operating system is sending you an Excel document, then opening it in Linux operating system on a Linux box might become a little bit of an uphill battle. So now let's talk a little bit about productivity tools. Productivity tools. Example of productivity tools are what I've listed here: the K Office, Abby Office, Slag Office, and Star Office. So they are productivity tool. So you can visualize them as or equivalent of this product of these tools in Microsoft operating system are your Microsoft Office, your Microsoft Office software. So if you want to find out more about productivity tools, about software that you can install on your Linux machine, then you can visit this website at www.linuxsoftware.org. www.linuxsoftware.org. I have Star Office down here. Star Office is known to be Microsoft Office compatible. So it therefore means that if I have Star Office running on my Linux machine, and somebody using Windows operating system has Microsoft Office, that person can send me a Word document, can send me Excel document, okay, and on my machine I should be able to read, okay, that Excel or Word document without no problem at all. I should be able to make modification, and if I so wish, I can send the files back to the person. But one thing I would advise here is, if you're going to be using, because most of the time when these companies, once they put this compatible, so you might really not find it as straightforward as they have specified. So now if they are saying Star Office is compatible with Microsoft Office, so it really might not work as you expect it to work most of the time. So what I'd advise here is that you run Star Office on all the computers on your network. Since they are Microsoft Office compatible, it means that they can run, you can install them without any problem at all on different platforms. You can install it on your Linux platform, you can install it on your Windows platform. So instead of installing Microsoft Office on your Windows machine and installing Star Office on your Linux machine, so I'll simply advise that you run Star Office on all the machines on your network, so that sharing files between the two platforms won't be too much of an uphill battle. Next, let's talk about scientific and mathematical tools. This is where Linux beats Microsoft hands down. Okay, so with scientific and mathematical tools, this is because Linux softwares or Linux scientific application are known to be very, very robust, and they handle things much better than Windows scientific tools. So example of such scientific tool is JEG. JEG is used to draw two-dimensional mathematical function. The JEG, you can use it to draw two-dimensional mathematical function. We also have down here the GNU plot. GNU plot is a plotting utility that you can use on your MS-DOS machine. You can use it on your VMS system. You can use it on a Linux system too as well. Finally, let's talk about network and internet tool. Network and internet tool. Under server, okay, good category of network and internet tool is the server tool. And under server tool, you have another good example being Apache. Apache is a good example of a web server. There are other web server, for instance, in Microsoft systems, we have the IIS web server, Internet Information Service. But Apache is known to be very, very stable, to be very, very reliable. And statistics is shown us that over 58% of the machine on the internet run Apache web server. So that go a long way. That goes a long way to tell us how stable, okay, the Apache web server is. So it's a web server, and it is very, very stable web server environment. Okay, so it is about the most stable web server environment out there. Okay, in this video we've looked at installation planning from the software part of things. So in the next video we're going to be taking a look at planning our installation from the hardware perspective. So I really hope that you find this video informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.